BNP is offering family card. A big question is, why should it be universal? They have pledged it universal family card. Why do I don't need a family card?
We need to understand what problem we're trying to solve. What's the market failure? Is there a market failure? Is it a pure distribution mechanism? Is that what we want to do? Is it that there is a particular behavior that we want to incentivize? Is that what we're trying to do? Is this a poverty alleviation? So moving from extreme poverty, reduce extreme poverty. Is that what the problem is?
Poor people, they make very conscious financial decisions. And I tell you, in my experience from working around the world, I've seen they're the best finance managers. They're poor not by choice, it's by design. I will come to that maybe in a different discussion.
I think that we need to really understand what is the problem that the parties are trying to solve one problem. They're trying to win the election.
I would have loved if you said, in the 5th year of our government, you will see that one of the universities of Bangladesh will be in the global 150. That's an electoral promise that we are looking at probably, and I'm not seeing it.
Yeah. We are and all of that, so that for the new viewers.
Listening to the J&J podcast, Jyoti and Jyoti. I'm Rubaiyat, Sarwar, Jyoti, and I'm with my colleague and friend, my best friend, Jyoti Rahman from Australia, joining me.
Yes.
In Dhaka.
In Dhaka. So I'm Jyoti Rahman. I'm a macroeconomist and macro development. I travel to countries in Global South and work on macroeconomic and fiscal whole economy issue. And
I'm Rubaiyat Sarwar. I'm Managing Director at Innovation Consulting, a global advisory and management consulting firm. I work on the space of systems development. I'm an economist, and I'm primarily working on development and global South-to-South cooperation.
From micro
perspective, primarily.
And our podcast, our show is about these economic development issues that are common to Global South. And we usually do these things online.
As we travel. So either you are traveling or I'm traveling, and one of us is in Dhaka and one of us is in Canberra. But this time we have actually met in Dhaka because I'm in Dhaka. So this is the first one we're doing face to face in live and no, not live today.
Not live today. No, not live today. So but uncut. So usually we also do these things live. We have a bit more time to prepare. This is a very short and very special one because we just happen to have met in an event and we thought let's do it. So
absolutely.
Okay. And we have our people who are helping us. So thank you guys. So yeah. Okay.
So why Cairo did not happen?
Why Cairo didn't happen? Yes.
Because you're the lucky one. Bangladesh, Australian, you have your blue passport and you can travel like the blink. And I with my green passport, I struggle. I actually have, in some cases, a month's preparation. And Egypt too, they prepared that the visa takes more than 3 weeks for me to get.
That is very unfortunate because
I couldn't make it.
And this is something that in Bangladesh, we're going to have an election. And a new government is going to come in. People who are connected with political parties. This holds the country back enormously. Okay, you cannot have a globally connected economy with a weak passport. That's basically.
And a pledge to the next government: please help us travel.
Help us travel.
Help us travel. We promise we will deliver Bangladesh.
You cannot sell Bangladesh. We cannot export.
Absolutely.
We cannot. Right.
So help us sell Bangladesh so that we can bring money, FDI, and also global cooperation, and we will take the Bangladesh flag happily, merrily across the world.
Absolutely. And we actually do have, Bangladesh does have a lot of things to teach the other countries of Global South. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, and that brings us to the topic of this episode. I wanted to hear from you. Bangladesh is going to have an election soon. I see all the parties, both major political parties, making pledges about essentially transfers, cash handouts, cash support, household support, and so on. You have worked in this space. I have some views from the macro side, but I also want to hear from you about your experience about these kind of programs in Bangladesh and elsewhere
What does the literature say? What have you found as a practitioner? What are the kind of things that our politicians, political parties, incoming government, what should they, what do they need to know? What do they need to think?
So, first of all, I applaud that both Jamaat Islami and Bangladesh Nationalist Party (BNP) they have offered a menu of all of these policies. Well done on that. Thank you. But I'm also at the same time not very happy because I felt there was room to think it through. But both the parties seemingly went on a competition to basically come up with handout policies because during election times, handouts sell. And we have that history and knowledge and experience from across the global south. In Nigeria, for example, where I spend a lot of my time, in every election time, they will offer a lot of free bed nets. So malaria is endemic in Nigeria. So they give out bed nets as an electoral promise, and also a lot of malaria-related interventions and so on and so forth. Just one example. But what happens is that afterwards, people give out this or sell out these bed nets that they've got free. They sell it in the marketplace and they cash it out and they use it. The question is, do they not have the need of the bed nets? Otherwise, why the electorals are pledging it? They do have the net because they do have the demand, or I would say need for the net because malaria is real. But it's still like you will take a chance. Okay, I get 4 times malaria. I don't care. I would die probably. There is a chance of one in 100 chance, and I would take a chance. So people have got accustomed to that. But generally, they would either sell it off and cash the money and then use it, right? So it's an electoral pitch that works, but it never works in the sense that what it was meant to be doing, which is malaria reduction. It doesn't work like that, right? So I give that example because that's exactly the same thing that we might be facing here. So we are offering a lot of handouts. They do have their needs. It's not like they're absolutely rubbish. There is a context why they're needed. But the point is, these things don't work. And the reason being that they don't fit to how people will utilize it. So the point here is that, say, for instance, if BNP is offering family card, a big question is why should it be universal? They have pledged it universal family card. Why do I don't need a family card. That's A. And even if I'm getting it, I would probably not go take the hassle to get the card, or B, even if I've gotten it, I would not queue up to redeem the card. So what will happen is I will give it out to my helping hands or other who needs it, my drivers, for example. So and now talk about the poor people. The same thing can happen. What happens is that poor people, they make very conscious financial decisions, and I tell you, in my experience from working around the world, I have seen they're the best finance managers. They're poor not by choice, it's by design. I will come to that maybe in a different discussion. But point is, they say when they have the money, they know how to use it. The example is, so if you give them Taka 2,500 worth of food aid, they're highly likely to sell it off in the market and cash that Taka 2,500 and then save up Taka 5,000, and you get a sheep or you get a goat. And then basically what happens is that they will think, I can quickly multiply that sheep or goat or a flock of 30 chicken, and then I can grow. So question is, when we already know that they will be doing it, why give a food aid? That's my question. So you can potentially design a huge extreme poverty elevation program with the same money, and that will tackle the issue of poverty forever. And we have one of the world's best extreme poverty elevation programs in Bangladesh, and we have several extreme poverty programs in Bangladesh that we have taken from Bangladesh to around the world. So why give a family card? Use that money to design an extreme poverty elevation program that kills poverty once for all. That's A. And the second point is what dysfunction are we trying to address? Maybe we're thinking that, okay, there is food price inflation. The food price is going up and up, and then there is inflation and people are feeling the pressure, so there is a demand for controlling it. But see, the underlying dimension for that is very different. It's because we cannot control the value chain, the supply chain, and the dynamics that control the food price, the demand and supply issues. Without controlling it, if you're superficially pumping it money, it's just going to more influence that same very issue that is causing the pain, right? So it's not addressing the problem. And when you are basically bypassing it, giving out money, and people have more money to buy, what happens? When there is 10,000 crores taka going in to buy more food from the government, what happens? The price goes up.
Inflation, yeah. Supply and demand.
Someone that is not doing that math doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. No, this is you bring out very important points, right? That we need to understand what problem we are trying to solve. What's the market failure? Is there a market failure? Like, is it a pure distribution mechanism? Is that what we want to do? Is it that there is a particular behavior that we want to incentivize? Is that what we're trying to do? Is this a poverty alleviation? So moving from extreme poverty, reduce extreme poverty. Is that what the problem is? I think that we need to really understand what is the problem that the parties are. Well, parties are trying to solve one problem. They're trying to win the election. Of course. But leaving that aside, these interventions, these handouts and these measures, we need to really understand what is the problem, what is the specific problem that we're trying to solve, and then work out what the solution should be, as opposed to thinking that, okay, here's a solution that looks good without thinking what the problem is.
The same family card can work. It's just about pivoting. You started by pivoting. I would say pivot it to something that's more durable. That's it. I'm not saying don't give it out. I'm just saying, let's say, think about the causalities,
Right.
and also think about the underlying dimensions and potential impacts. We know about that impacts from our earlier experiences in many different countries. So be aware of that. Just change your design. Don't be just so dogmatic. That's the point.
One issue is one thing here is that these things have not the designs probably have not been bedded down, as far as I understand.
Absolutely. So
right?
we have a hope.
So we have a hope, and so this is why conversations like these are useful, right? So that we can talk about this, and we can, we can bring, the literature and knowledge, and yeah.
And my hope is that in previous regimes and etc., there was always this wall that, let's say, if policymakers have said something, it cannot be changed or it cannot be pivoted, it cannot be adopted. I hope and I believe our future leaders would have the soft corner to understand that, okay, things can change, things can evolve. Let's listen to what people are saying and then adopt. That's it.
That's it. Another question before we end, because as I said, this is a very short, very special program.
But I also had just one example
sure.
quickly. So, for example, Jamaat's policies too, I will just pick one simple one. There was a lot of, they had a lot of backlash on their promise of, let's say, spending 7%, I guess they said, or of the GDP on health, which is unrealistic. So I'm not going to go there. But let's take another one that they said to send 100 young, needy, talented graduate student to abroad and then bring them back. Good. But maybe think alternatively too. How about we bring 100 professors, diaspora professors to Bangladesh? What happens? How about we give them the kind of facilities to do their research here in Bangladesh, to teach here in Bangladesh? You have better quality universities, you have better quality programs, you have better quality students, and you can probably still send those 100 in scholarships. But these 100 professors, if you're bringing them to Bangladesh, you'd have a multiplier effect. So think about improving our PhD programs. Think about improving our research facilities. Think about investing in our tertiary education quality. So target, I would have loved if you said in the 5th year of our, let's say, campaign for government, you will see that one of the universities of Bangladesh will be in the global 150. That's an electoral promise that we are looking at probably, and I'm not seeing that.
No, it's true. That's true. You do bring one important aspect, though, which is a lot of these promises are not
costed at all. So, for example, some of the Jamaat policies, you mentioned the health one, but you could also think about any of the other ones that we will give out cash-free loans to XYZ. Well, how much are they going to cost and so on? The BNP ones are probably a bit better costed, but even then, the fundamental question remains that, okay, what is the problem that you are trying to solve? And then work backwards rather than here is what we're going to do without thinking through. And again, there's scope for finessing the design. One particular, so I'll put two propositions to you and see what you think. So you've talked about the micro side of things, that what is the problem, what is the market failure that we are trying to fix, and then design them appropriately. So for example, means testing could be one avenue. And you also mentioned that family card, not everyone needs it, right? What do you have any experience or your views about universal basic income? So this is, the universal cash handout idea that a lot of people talk about. So that might be, it may be that's what is motivating BNP and then also probably Jamaat. And is that idea feasible in Bangladesh, leaving aside the cost, because it's extremely costly, yes, but as a concept, as a philosophy?
See, I think we discussed about it before in our last episode, that we are inheriting the economy is bad, and the
Yes.
future government is inheriting a bad economy. When you're inheriting a bad economy and you're going to do a lot of, let's say, stock taking and operations and surgeries in the economy, which means that you are not going to immediately have a healthy growth, right? So
Right.
when you're not having a healthy growth, even though you said don't talk about cost, the point is, let's say you still have priorities. So I would say this would not be my priority. I would try to find out, okay, how can I create soft jobs? How can I create, let's say, how can I bring more FDI? How can I improve the income of the country? Now, what is very powerful and in the hand of the governments is that they give some confidence to the people, and people will invest. The fundamental difference between micro and macro, which is why I like your part of the game, is that, see, in the microeconomics, we try to push barriers at thousands and thousands of levels. And then our effort gets divided, right? So I can change a big bank, for example, but I would not be able to change all the banks. But your monetary policy can immediately have a huge influence on the banks. So the government, by having some very solid policies, can immediately send good signals. And what happens is that the government is unlike a business where I'm trying to make my means on my own and I am within the bracket of, let's say, the government policies. The government benefits from many like us who can fight for the government, right? So the job for the government, therefore, is to give the confidence, the signal that invest, your money is not going to get in greens because we are keeping the conditions, we are creating the conditions for you to grow. So that's very simple. Bring a stability, give the confidence, allow the private sector to invest, and you're going to reap the dividends in a year or so. And then, of course, slowly, it's great that we are thinking of all of these social instruments because we don't want people to, let's say, go down. So universal basic income and so on and so forth, this will help people to have the basic means. What happens here is that once you have the universal basic income, at least what happens is that you are ensuring consumption. Economy is a function of consumption. If you are allowing consumption to happen, then private sector will invest. And if the private sector is investing, more income will come, which means the pressure on universal income would slowly get diminished.
That's actually a very good note to probably bring today's conversation to a close, because as I was listening to you, I was wondering, perhaps this may be what had been motivating the parties, and BNP started this, and so perhaps it was that they understand that the economy is experiencing severe slowdown, cyclical slowdown,
partly because of the last few years of Hasina regime, but also last 12, 18 months of interim political uncertainty and all of that. So, and they understand that the old school stimulus of giving subsidies and support to banks and other things, old school stimulus that had been tried under the Hasina regime and so on are probably not going to work. They're probably thinking that maybe supporting consumption, particularly at the cash constrained households in the near term, might be a way to boosting confidence. It could be that, and if that is so, then that should be articulated very clearly, right?
I agree with you.
Yeah. We want to talk more about what democratic transition means for the economy in a broader sense, but that is probably going to be for another day. I think we should
Soon. In a week's time.
In a week's time. Where are we going next?
I'm supposed to go to Ethiopia and Nigeria, 2 back-to-back trips. So
there should be 2 back-to-back back-to-back episodes coming up, and hopefully, these missions, these trips do happen, and then we can do this.
Take care.
Fantastic. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Okay.